welcome to Dissecting Tyrone. I'm Jason.
I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to talk about stop the bullshit.
Please stop the bullshit.
Man, and see, what that means is me and Brandon was talking the other day on the phone, and we were like, man, people need to stop with all this, the nonsense that we have going on over a variety of situations, in our community and relationships with finances. And we said, man, we need to do an episode called Stop the Bullshit. Just where we talk about a few different topics where we're like, hey, man, just cut it out, knock it off.
Right. It may seem like this episode we may bounce around just a little bit, but there's some key areas that we want to address and just talk about it.
Definitely. I think the first thing we want to talk about is toxic relationship cycles. Toxic relationship cycles.
Yeah, so I think when I think about toxic relationship cycles, when a person, man or woman, is in a relationship, they get out of a relationship, they're not fully healed, and the next thing you know, they get in a relationship with someone who may be willing and ready to be in that perfect or storybook relationship, and that unnecessary baggage that they're bringing, it doesn't allow for them to make a true connection. The person who has all the baggage is always, it's almost like they're looking over their shoulder and just looking for the right moment to just mess things up. So.
Yeah, and sometimes, man, things can be self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right.
You know what I mean is, like, if you think things are going to go bad or wrong because all your other relationships went bad or wrong, then sometimes you set things in motion to lead them to be bad and wrong, as crazy as that sounds. For me, overall, I don't think I'm toxic. I think I'm pretty level-headed, pretty good. But at the end of the day, I think that I have a bad picker. And I pick situations that may not be the best for me. So I do consider that a toxic trait because at the end of the day, while I feel like I'm healed and ready for relationships and ready for happiness, because I don't always have the best picker. Sometimes the people I get in relationships with may not be in a state to where they're ready for that type of relationship, happy, healthy relationship. And for me, it causes issues.
I think I can somewhat relate to that. I think the problem is if I'm ready for a relationship and I'm talking to someone and I think that things are moving great, you're heading in that right direction, sometimes we fail to ask the right questions because maybe it didn't come up that time, or maybe it's one of those things you're like, man, I'm really into this person, things are going great, I don't want to mess it up. But I think we do a disservice to ourselves if we don't ask the right questions. And not something as simple as, okay, you've been out of this relationship for a little bit, are you sure you're ready to move on? Have you healed properly? What did your healing process look like? And everybody's answer is going to be different, but if they give you that feedback, then before the emotions start setting in too thick, you have an option to either address them, and if you do address them, and you're not liking what you're hearing, then you have to stand on 10 toes and basically say, all right, well, I'm not willing to deal with this, and be willing to walk away from it.
Man, that's great advice. And for me, I have a whole list of questions that I ask because I know I'm a bad picker. Because men, we're visual creatures. So sometimes we get caught up in the attraction of a person. And at least that's what I've done in the past. Like, it's always like, hey, if I'm attracted to them, I don't think I ignore red flags. But I don't view red flags as red flags sometimes. So I guess that's ignoring red flags. So I ignore red flags. So that's my toxic trait. I'm a red flag ignorer. But I'll overlook some things in the past because I was attracted to that person. The new me in this new season of life, I have a whole series of questions that I ask. And like I had a friend tell me recently, he said, man, you too quick to cut somebody off. But I think what he doesn't realize is, I'm 47. I'll be 48 next month. I don't have the time to give, 6 months or 7 months getting to know somebody that's already given me red flags in the beginning. Again, I did that in the past, and that's why I had toxic relationship cycles, because I kept doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Isn't that the definition of insanity?
Absolutely.
And that's what I was doing. I was being insane with it. So now I got questions. I ask questions, and I've never met a woman I can't walk away from. If I don't care how beautiful she is, I don't care how much we vibe. If she does, I don't want to say like it's one thing and you're out of here, but if it's one thing that's a big thing to me, a big compatibility issue thing, then I'm out. I gotta go.
I think that, so for me, I I think it comes with experience. So going from in my 20s and then meeting my future wife at the time, I was still fairly young. So I think from 20 to like 25 or 18 to 25, relationships came easy to me because we're young. Love is flowing free. I mean, you have attractive individuals attracted to each other, and the next thing you know, you really don't have to try as hard. So you get into this marriage. This is your forever person. You out the game for 15 years. And then getting back into the game, you still, like, you're going to have some hits, you're going to have some misses. But to your point of you having your list, you won't have a list until you experience some of these things that happen. But I think the biggest thing is staying true to yourself and being able to regroup and not, if you're dating someone and you can see the writing on the wall and they're unhealed or they're going back to an ex or whatever the case may be, you take it, but you still have to develop yourself and make sure that you don't turn into that toxic person and actually hurt someone who is looking for love or, looking for you.
No, that's facts. And I think one big thing that I like to point out that allows me to walk away and have my I guess standards that I won't back down on is I don't be out here smashing. I think once you incorporate sex, there's an emotional connection, there's a spiritual connection that you have, and it makes it a lot harder to break those ties and break those bonds that you should break. So because I'm not out here smashing, I feel like it makes it a whole lot easier to be like, hey, this is what it is. This is what I'm looking for. If you don't fit what I'm looking for, and again, I know it's not going to be 100%. I don't expect somebody to be 100% of, what I want, but I need a good 80.
Right.
I need a good 80% or I can't move forward. And if you do any of my non-negotiables, I tell people, like my buddy that was saying that I cut him off too quick. I said, man, listen, I have a list of what I prefer. I have my preferences. And then on that list of preferences, I have a secondary list of non-negotiables. If you hit a non-negotiable, the word is non-negotiable. That means I'm not negotiating that. So if you hit one of those, I'm out of there.
Just the simple fact that you actually have a list is not a bad thing. And I think if more people take the time to write down what they want, write down what they don't want, relationship-wise, it'd be a lot better, or at least you'll be able to kind of sift through some of the things that off the bat you start talking to folks and like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna keep my boundaries because I don't want to go there. But the biggest thing is going to be discipline. When you say not smashing a chick, yeah, absolutely. You don't have to smash somebody to get to know them. Like when you were in your 20s, you obviously people are wild. You do what you do, but as we're in our 40s, you don't have time to waste. So why get vested into someone where they don't share the same mutual interests as you? And ultimately, like you said, if you do end up smashing, that's where all bets are off, and that person has you or you have that person, but you guys don't have the best interest for each other. So we definitely got to stop the bullshit on setting ourselves up for failure and trying to recognize these issues a lot quicker so we're not wasting this time.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And just to be clear, let me clear this up real quick. When I say, or when Brandon says we don't have time to waste, that doesn't mean I'm in a rush looking for somebody or that I want to be in a relationship tomorrow. It doesn't mean that at all. I'm actually very happy, being alone. I think people confuse alone with lonely, and alone doesn't mean lonely. I have, friends, family. I enjoy myself. I enjoy my own company. I be making me crack up.
If you can't enjoy yourself, or if you can't go out and date yourself and just go explore, experience something different, like you missing out. Like that's a cheat code to life. And when I figured out like going on a solo trip, you can't pull me away from it. I don't even have to be out there trying to pursue something. It's just me clearing my mind, taking care of business and just relaxing and enjoying life.
Man, I don't use these buttons a lot, but I'm about to use a button on that. Message. I'm gonna sum it up in a couple words. If you cannot date yourself and be happy, then you shouldn't be dating nobody else.
Facts.
Period, point blank. If you can't date yourself, you shouldn't be dating somebody else. That means maybe you have some areas that you need to fix on. If you can't be alone with you, then you shouldn't bring anybody else into that equation.
That's a fact.
Another thing, first of all, let me end it by saying, stop the bullshit. Like, stop it. Cut it out. If you have toxic relationship cycles and you realize that you're always in the same type of relationship, negative, not growing anywhere, it's not it's not happy, it's not healthy, then I would stop, pull back, take some time to yourself. I always preach therapy. Get you some therapy, get to loving yourself. And then I think when you love yourself and you find some peace, you won't bring somebody into that's going to disrupt it.
That's a fact.
So stop the bullshit. I think that feeds into another topic we want to talk about is, I got a list up here. That's why I keep looking over there. Playing games with good people.
Yeah, so I think the last subject that we talked about feeds directly into this. And I think I want to first start off by people who are ready to be in a relationship and are open and just have that love ready to flow. You have to look at it from the standpoint, if you come across a toxic person and maybe you get wrapped in and it just happened too quick, God is not going to give you a blessing that you weren't meant to have. So I think at the end of the day, you may go through something, but take that as a sign. Take that as you need to take a step back, because if this person was once in your life and then now all of a sudden maybe they went back to an ex, they did, it just didn't work out, and they kind of communicated, but they weren't just 100% real with you, then take that as a blessing, because you could have wasted 2, 3, 4, 5 years with this person, and then ultimately they still could have went back to their ex, and now you're crushed. Maybe y'all have commingled families. Maybe there's just so many things that you've vested into this person. But take that as a sign. Sometimes we have to take that lesson, and it's never a loss. It's always a lesson. Take that lesson and be able to learn from it. Be able to, like what Jason does, write you a list. Do something as simple as, okay, if you're a man, hey, these are the qualities that I want in a wife, if that's what you ultimately want, or a long-term partner. Start writing these things down. It may change over time, over months, and you may talk to this person or this person, and you like this attribute about that person. Let me write this down. This is what it makes me feel. Or you know what you don't like. Let me write that down. So again, it just goes back to dating smart, being smart with yourself and being intentional. That's how you're going to land. Hopefully, at least you may get 90% of what you're looking for. The 10% you can't control. And if you cool with it, just rock with it.
I agree with that. And overall, when we talk about, playing games with good people, I think you have to realize that when you've been in toxic relationships and had those cycles going, even though you might recognize it and you say, hey, I'm trying to break that cycle, I'm not trying to go there again, sometimes it makes you play games with the good people that come into your life. And it's more out of fear. I don't think it's intentional. I think you're afraid of getting played or getting hurt. I put a question up on Facebook recently, and the women led into me. They went off on me because I said, are you really single by choice? And they were like, yes, I'm single by choice and all this other stuff. I'm working on me. Now, let me say this. I do agree. If you're working on you, then that is single by choice. You're choosing to be single because you're working on yourself and trying to improve yourself or whatever. However, when you're single and the reason is I don't have time for no man that's going to play games, or I can do bad by myself, then to me, you're not single by choice. You're single by hurt. Like, you're hurt and you don't want to allow somebody else the opportunity to hurt you again. So ultimately, do you choose to be single? 100% yes. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like you truly are choosing to be single, because it's a choice that you wouldn't make if you hadn't been hurt in the past.
Right. I think it goes back to what you said earlier, being single by choice. If somebody has the accountability and they can actually see it in themselves, yes, you may be single by choice, quote unquote, but it's one of those things that if you're not doing the necessary work to be able to work on you, to love you, you're literally gonna be miserable. You're gonna be sitting on the sideline, maybe watching the ex or watching these other individuals, and it's like time is passing by. You kind of getting salty. It's changing you into a different person, instead of just completely removing yourself from that situation and taking those necessary steps to heal or what it is, what that looks like for you.
Right. And to those people that play games on purpose with good people, stop the bullshit.
Stop it.
Stop it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't see a future with that person, man, just let them go and keep it pushing. Because at the end of the day, you're going to prevent them from having a happy and healthy relationship with somebody else in the future when you had no intention of being with them. You just trying to get whatever you can get out of it. And one thing I promise you is if you don't want to do it for them, do it for yourself, because that karma is going to come back on you.
Man, you took the words right out of my mouth. That karma, it doesn't have a expiration date.
Ever.
It could happen tomorrow. It could happen 10 years from now. But guess what? Those individuals who are setting this person up, this good person up for failure, the roles can reverse. You can find somebody what you think the love of your life is, and he or she can leave you high and dry, and then you're going to be outside in your drawers, playing the guitar, trying to get her back, and it's like, nah, I ain't with it. But that's going to be your karma.
Man, and like you said, it has no expiration date. You never know when it's going to come back. It's going to come back when you least expect it.
Right.
You know, I had a woman I was dealing with at one point in my life who had a man, and I knew she had a man, and I didn't care that she had a man. And something in me, man, at one point we were doing our thing, hanging out, having fun, and something in me was like, man, one day you want to be happy. I don't want this karma to come back on me. And now I end up in a situation where the person that I love and care about that I'm with is out here, which happened to me, so it has no expiration date, man. And it comes back when you least expect it, for sure.
Right. No,
also, when we talk about playing games with good people, I think if we thought about life more through the eyes of how would I want somebody to treat my daughter, my son, my mom, my dad, the people that we loved, I think sometimes we wouldn't play some of those games, because people like handing out the punishment, but they don't like receiving it. So what I mean is people like doing those games and playing those games with people so that they can get whatever benefit they're trying to get out of it. But when that happens to them or their loved ones, a lot of times it ain't funny it's no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
That's true. But I think sometimes, man, there is a population of people out there who really just don't care. So like if it did happen to a loved one, they may feel a little some type of way about it. But I just think there are some people who just literally they're gonna march to their own beat and do what they want to do. And unfortunately, those individuals just need to be identified, or people need to take the steps. Like you may be attracted to him or her, but it goes to that work of you setting your boundaries, you asking the right questions up front. Like, hey, are you sure that you're ready to move on? Or tell me, like, ask questions. Tell me about this. Tell me about this experience. Now, one or two things are going to happen. Either they're a great liar and they're just going to continue to keep feeding you these lies, but you should be able to identify, or they're going to open up a little bit. And then you keep probing and probing and probing, and the next thing you know, you're like, nah, something ain't right here, because I'm getting this feeling, or I'm hearing what you're saying. Let me just back off. Before you get intimate or in a situationship, just back off, because, again, at the end of the day, it boils down to discipline. What's meant for you is meant for you, or who's meant for you is meant for you. And if that person's not, okay, cool, go on to the next. How many? We got billions and billions of people on this planet. You're going to find the right person for you.
Yeah, at some point. But also, I think, too, we talked earlier about the toxic cycles and everything, and I said I had a bad picker. I think for me, that's one big push for me to remain single until I meet somebody, because I know I got a bad picker. I don't want to pick somebody who's wrong for me, and then you miss the person that's right for you because you over here wasting time with the wrong one.
That's true.
So those situations happen too. Also, stop the bullshit. Again, I know it seems like we're bouncing around, but we want to cover a few different things with this. And when we go through the list, we'll come back and hit a few points here and there on other things. But one thing we want to talk about is accountability over excuses.
Accountability.
What's that mean to you?
Accountability.
Over excuses.
Over excuses is, to me, you not honoring your commitment based on whatever the circumstance is, whether that being a relationship, whether that being you saying like, hey, I'm going to help a friend out and go do X, Y, Z, or I'm going to make a commitment to this meeting. And then at the last minute, you trying to pull back and you got all these million excuses. And I practice what I preach. I tell my son all the time, like, hey, honor your commitment. If you've honored this commitment, or you've made the commitment, you're going to honor it whether you like it or not. And that's just going to basically give you better character. It's going to show you, okay, sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to, but you go through it. And now going forward, if it comes up again, you have an option. You can say, yes, I want to continue and do it, or no, nah, this is not for me.
No, yeah. That's on point. Also, I feel like accountability over excuses. I think sometimes people like to think that they're giving their reasoning behind the situation, and it's really their excuse. And to me, the difference is when you give a reason, you're saying, hey, this is why something happened, but it doesn't mean you don't take accountability for it. You can give a reason and just say, hey, but I apologize. That was my fault. That's on me. I'll do better. But people like to use their reason and make it their excuse, because what they'll do is they'll give that reason with no, hey, I accept responsibility for it. So to me, that's when it becomes an excuse over accountability. Like when you're saying, hey, this is why it happened, but there's no follow-up of, but I take accountability for that. That was my fault. That it won't happen again.
That's true, and that's big. And if we want to jump on the subject of a relationship, I think that's key. If you are in a relationship, something happens, and it's your fault. If you just come out and be honest and just say, hey, listen, this is what this is. For example, you could be talking to someone, and next thing you know, maybe they are catching feelings somewhere else. If that person actually comes out and says, we didn't go on a date because of X, Y, Z. I'm feeling this type of way. I'm in this different headspace. I could respect you for that. But if you tell me that, oh, the dog did this or ate my phone and I wasn't able to get back with you and all this other stuff, and then come to find out, like, oh, you was out with somebody else when I was supposed to be out with you, and you made all this excuse. When I find out on the back end, it's like, come on now, that you're lacking accountability. And then now I'm also going to look at your character, because prior to that, I may have had my blinders on and I'm like, man, I'm focused. I can do X, Y, Z. But now it's like, okay, how is your character? Because if you're doing this to me at this stage, what would happen if we years into it? It's like I can't really trust you. And if I can't trust you, I can't rock with you.
Man, and that's on my list. Like because I've dated people, and I've been the person too where I didn't take accountability. I don't make it seem like I'm perfect. I never did anything wrong. I had those points in my life, but I think as you get older, the goal is to learn from those situations. So I learned, and for me, it was usually not a situation of I was intentionally trying to hurt somebody or do something wrong to somebody. For me, it's just always I felt bad. Like if I did something wrong or I made a mistake or I didn't follow through with something, I felt bad for it. So I would give my reasoning, which became my excuse, instead of just taking accountability for it. And I think at the end of the day, as you get older, you learn that I'm grown. I can't get in trouble for something. Like I'm grown. I can't get in trouble. I can learn. I can make mistakes. But again, when I make that mistake, accountability is going to that person and saying, hey, listen, I messed up. I made a mistake. You have every right to be upset or mad. This is what I did, and this is why it's not going to happen again. I apologize. And then having changed behavior. Like to me, that's the biggest part of being sorry or having accountability is once you take accountability, once you apologize, once you say, hey, that's on me, change the behavior. Like stop doing whatever it was that you had to apologize for.
Yeah, that's big. Players mess up too. So sometimes you gotta come back and pull it back and say, hey, you know what, I accept this, and yes, let me go ahead and change it. I think that's a key point that people need to do. If you find yourself in a situation to where maybe your integrity or your accountability is not fully there, but then you just own it, then okay, now that you've owned it, it's identified, you start making these changes to be better. It happens less and less, or it doesn't happen again, and now you're trying to put that energy that you were trying to do to hide into something good. And you know what I'm saying, the good karma that we don't speak about sometimes, it's going to come back and find you, because now you're not putting yourself in a situation to either hurt someone or misuse someone, mistreat someone, and you literally revamping what that negative piece is, and you're just putting it back into a positive light.
True. And let me tell you this too. If you are a person who's never wrong, right? You're always right, or it's always somebody else's fault, or somebody else always needs to take accountability, then you may be the problem.
Right.
Like sometimes, like there's been times in my life to where I was in a relationship or a situation where a woman would be like, you don't take accountability. But the reality was they weren't taking accountability. So what I mean is accountability should be a self-reflecting thing. Like somebody else shouldn't have to come to you and say, hey, you need to take accountability for this. You should be able to step back from a situation and look and say, okay, where did I go wrong? I talk about my last marriage with friends a lot, and I'm like, it was a horrible marriage, and I'm like, she did this, she did that, she did this, she did that. Well, I had to step back at some point when I was going through my healing process and say, you know what, she did do a lot of things that were wrong, or things that were hurtful or harmful or not healthy to our relationship. But what did I do? You know, I wasn't this perfect person. You know, yeah, I didn't cheat. I didn't, put my hands on. I didn't do all these things. But what did I do that I can take accountability for, that I can learn and grow for? So sometimes, even when you feel like it is the other person's problem or whatever, sometimes it's okay to just step back and say, what could I have done better in this situation?
I think when you going through that process, because I know I went through the divorce process, but it's like sometimes you're gonna be in your emotion because you're like, dang man, you may want it to work so bad to where now you're trying to talk through it. You're saying that all the negative things that are happening, and instead of doing that, you just have to take that step back, take the silence to write your thoughts down, start processing that piece, so then you can begin your healing. Because when we talk amongst ourselves, if you have a good core group of guys or friends that are around you, they may take it for 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions, and then after that, they can be like, dude, you saying the same dang on thing over and over and over, dude, shut up. Like, this is what this is. And if you don't have real friends, like, you ain't got real friends, because they'll put things in perspective for you. So then it's like, okay, let me snap out of it. Because man, yeah, I was tripping. Let me go ahead and focus on this and take that energy that I was so adamant about and go work out. Go pursue a new idea that you've been thinking about doing, a new passion. When you start channeling that, like your life kind of opens up, like that weight lifts off your shoulder. And these are the necessary things that you need to do, that is a part of your self-help and self-health, your journey that you're going to be on into the new you. And you should always try to evolve. If it's a negative situation, take that in. You're processing it and figure out how can you turn this into something positive.
I agree. And one thing you said that's important, is huge. To me, it's just as big as therapy, is your friend group. You know, your friends. Like, a lot of times I know men can have, homeboys too that are like that, but I think for the most part, men are pretty good about like, hey man, if you negative or you're not on the same thing I'm on, then I'm gonna cut you off, unless you're a negative person too and you're attracted to that. But women do it all the time. Well, they got that one homegirl they know is ratchet, or they know is cheating on their man, doing whatever, and they just big each other up. Like, everything is like, oh girl, again, there's no accountability. It's excuses over it. Well, girl, he mistreated you, so it's okay to cheat on him, or he ain't doing this, so it's okay to do this to him. And your friend group is huge, man. I got a buddy, or I've had buddies over the years, to where, like, I had a buddy one time, this was a long time ago, whose girlfriend always said he was cheating, and he's like, bro, she always accusing me of cheating. And I could have been the homeboy that'd be like, yeah, man, that's wrong, that's not cool. But I'm like, Negro, you be in everybody DMs.
So
Like,
you cheating.
Yeah, even if you don't feel that's cheating, right?
Right.
You can't have a new woman friend every week and then wonder why your girlfriend is upset about it. That just don't look right. And you have her out here looking bad because she have her Omaha small, and women talk. So she got her homegirls coming back to her talking about, yeah, your dude slid in so-and-so DMs. And even though from your point of view, oh, that was just on the cool, we just friends, man, your woman don't want you meeting new female friends every week.
Because if it happened on the flip, he'd be ready to shut everything down in Omaha.
Man, and let me say this. This is on a side note. My rule in a relationship is don't ask for what you don't offer. If you're going to ask something of me, then you should offer that in return. I remember one time I was dating, I was with a woman, and she had a best friend who she had been intimate with before in the past. And if you know me, I don't do that. I know people are like, oh, that's jealous, that's whatever. You can call it anything you want to call. But if there's been intimacy involved, then to me, that line of friendship has already been blurred, and y'all not at no friend level no more. And
Right.
and I'm not cool with that. Again, the same person had other male friends that later became my friends. So I'm not the guy that's like, oh, you can't have male friends or anything like that. So I don't consider it jealousy, but I do have a rule where if y'all been intimate, then, and not on my watch, I don't play that. So at the end of the day, she was like, that's my friend. You're being jealous. You're being insecure or whatever. And I said, okay, that's fine. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I was like, that's cool. I accept it. Y'all can be friends. I'm not, because again, I'm not controlling anybody. So I'll tell you what's acceptable to me You tell me what's acceptable to you, and we can figure this out together. But again, I can't force you. So if you're like, hey, nope, that's my friend, and I'm not willing to leave you over it, then I got to accept it. So I said, okay, I accept it. But I also knew there was a girl that I had never even been intimate with. But I asked on a date before, and she said no. And my ex was like, was very insecure about that situation. Even though I was upfront about it, it was prior to my ex. We never were intimate, never kissed, held hands, anything like that. We were just friends. But because she knew that I had liked her, she was insecure about it. And I call hers insecure because there was no reason behind her having an issue with it, because there had been no lines crossed. However, but so when she was like, no, that's my friend, I said, okay, that's fine. I got friends too. And I remember one time I was somewhere talking with my friend. It wasn't like we were out or anything like that. It's like when you bump into, we weren't like out together. It's like you bump into them, we're talking, whatever. And I'm not going to hide it. So when she was like, hey, what's going on with so I'm just here talking to so-and-so. And she blew a gasket. She was mad, upset. And I said, hey, listen, I said, I'm not doing anything inappropriate. And we've already had this discussion. And according to you, having friends that you have a history with is okay. So I can definitely have a friend that I don't have a history with.
Right.
So at the end of the day, if you're going to ask me to do something, you need to offer that in return. And she was like, I get it now. And then we didn't have to worry about that anymore. It was a done deal. And I didn't do that like on purpose to prove a point to her. But what I wasn't going to do was going to go out of my way to not be friends with this person and not be cool with this person when you've determined this is acceptable.
Right. So that's where that accountability, you held each other accountable and you move forward from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
So again, stop the bullshit. Going back to my list over here, stop the financial flexing. Man, I think that's huge. And that's one that I definitely want to talk about, because I feel like it puts our community in a horrible position, because everybody wants to flex financially. Everybody wants to show what they have, or have the latest and greatest, or have more than the next, or put on the Gucci loafers and the T-shirts that they can't afford. And when I say can't afford, I don't mean like you don't have the money to purchase it. I mean like you don't have the money to purchase that 10 times, because that's what the rich people told me. They said if you can't buy it 10 times, you can't afford it. So we'll go out here and get our paycheck and say, hey, I got a little extra, $200. Instead of putting that in savings, you want to go get, put it on a flex payment for a Gucci belt, just to go impress somebody that doesn't even matter.
Right. Yeah. I think my thought process on that is, we're not saying that you can't enjoy yourself or you can't go out and get nice things. I think the problem is, if you're doing this to try to impress someone else and you're not impressing yourself, like, what are we doing this for? Because ultimately you're going to sack chase or chase the bag over and over and over and over again, just to appease to a group of individuals who don't even have your best interest to begin with. So I think I've seen it a lot around the city. I tend to fall back, but I like I said, I do my own thing. Like, if I like something or want to go on a trip, obviously I'm financially responsible enough to where it's like, okay, this is what I want. I'm going to go ahead and get it. I'm not going to apologize. But guess what? I don't care if somebody like it or not. I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. And I think if people start doing it for themselves, cool. If you like the Gucci belts or you like this, you like that, fine. But if you out and about and we in public and we see 10 guys with the same Gucci belt or almost the same, just to say, oh, look at me, I got a Gucci belt. It's like, okay, and like, what's the end game? What are you trying to really accomplish?
Yeah, and I think that the big thing that you said right there is, if it's what you like. I think life in general is about your intent, right? Your intentions behind it. So if your intent behind it is to, get attention, or to, have a woman, look at you and be like, oh, well, he got all this stuff on. So now you're getting the quote unquote chicks that are chasing the bag, or gold diggers or whatever. So you're getting it as bait, basically, for fishing. Then I think that's a problem. If you truly like it, truly enjoy it, and you can't afford it yet, but you save up for one and you get it, whatever, I don't knock you for that. I don't consider that, flexing. But by the same token, I think we all know those people that will go out and spend their last to get something to impress somebody, and then they're calling you at the end of the month to ask about $20 for gas.
Right.
And I'm like, man, you just posted about in this Gucci belt. You got $4,000 worth of clothes on, And you asking me to borrow 20, and that doesn't mean that everybody can't be up 1 minute and down on the next. But what I mean is, like, if you got $4,000 to spend on an outfit or some shoes or whatever, maybe you put that in your savings account for when you are down, that you still have a little protection, a little cushion there for you.
So I still think it boils down to, like, what's your purpose? Everybody should have a purpose in life, and you follow that purpose. If that purpose is you getting bread or money along the way, of course you're gonna benefit from some of the successes that you have done, or you work, or maybe it's just like you just like fashion. It's like, all right, cool, this is just my lane. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, just to try to impress someone, a male or a female or whomever, ultimately you may get that or land that person. But what's going to end up happening is, if they're smart enough, they're going to see it and was like, okay, you just did this for this, or I'm going to get something out of you that I wanted to get, and then now I'm on to the next, and then now you're going to be one of those broken individuals, hurt, always trying to figure out I like this type of woman, I like this type of man, or whatever, and the next thing you know, you're going to be broke and alone, miserable, crying, and not yourself, because again, what is the purpose? What is your purpose in life? If you can't address that, realistically, man, you just need to keep pushing and keep trying to evolve and figure that out. Because, again, what's the saying? You never lose money chasing someone, man or female. You never lose money chasing the bread, but you're always going to lose the money chasing the opposite sex. And if you kind of stick with that mentality, stay on your purpose. If the right person comes along and they like you for who you are, and the type of clothes that you wear, or the type of things that you're able to afford, then you may have a winner. But if you get a little bit of bread here, and the next thing you know, you're getting all this extra attraction, and for a fact, like 2 days ago, you just called me ugly, or you just said that I'm a brokey, or whatever the case may be, and now because I came up, now you jumping on the team, and then again, that's where you have those broken people, because now this man or woman is going to be like, okay, I'm up now, so I get my pick of the litter, but you really don't. It's like you're attracting something that you really think that you need or you want, but you really don't need that.
No, facts. And I think at the end of the day, most of the time when people are trying to flex, you're doing it to impress people that don't matter.
Right.
Like, they don't matter. Like this, what I've said this all the time, man. Somebody that supports you is going to find every reason to support you.
Without a doubt.
And somebody that's going to talk about you is going to find every reason to talk about you. So these people that you're trying to impress, if they truly want to talk about you, they just going to find a different reason to talk about you. It'll literally go from this person can't afford that to this person trying to show off. And like, it'll literally be the opposite of what they complained about the first time, because at the end of the day, they just want to talk about you.
Sometimes I think also what it is, and I'm speaking for the city in general, being able to, like, actually get out of Omaha, get out of your environment for a little bit, go explore something new, because if you're hitting these different states, and there ain't no knock on Kansas City or anything like that, it's a great city, but expand beyond the Kansas cities. Like, go to somewhere where you look at the culture, you see the people, and
get your passport.
Yeah, get your passport, get up out of here, because when you do that, it puts your mind in a different perspective, and it's like, man, it's more to it than just this Gucci belt. Okay, I was about to drop $2,000 on a Gucci belt, but instead I decided to go to Africa for a week, and now I'm experiencing, and the culture is dope. Like, my mind perception is on something else, and then you come back home and you telling your close friends and your people about it, like, man, this is dope. We got to get on this. Then you start changing the narrative, the mindset. And again, we're not saying that you can't enjoy the fruits of your labor, the riches or whatnot. But if you haven't done so, go explore something different, come back with a different mindset, and get back into the game. And you don't have to impress anybody.
Yeah, not at all, man. And I think a big key too is, if you're buying fake stuff. I know some people might disagree with this, but I think if you're buying fake things, then you might need to step back and reevaluate why you want to wear this. Are you wearing this because of the show, because you're trying to flex and say, I got Gucci, I got Louis? Because in the reality, for me, the reality is that if you didn't care about what people thought, then you wouldn't have to get something that's not real, or something that's a knockoff or a counterfeit. Because at the end of the day, you're not trying to wear that name brand to impress people, again, that don't matter.
Right, and it's the same with the cars and all the other stuff. You go out. I seen it as early as, I remember when I was stationed in North Carolina. We talking like the early 2000s, and I will never forget. This is when like 20s and 22s was just kind of popping and being popular, there was this rim shop and they were financing rims, and obviously they do it now. And it was crazy. Like the interest rates were something like 25, 30%. These guys that have rims after payday, and then the next thing you know, they come to get repoed, and it's like, but they're doing it all to flex for a certain demographic of men, a certain demographic of women. And it's like at the end of the day, these men and these women, they're not contributing. Like you don't get an award unless you're entering a car show, but you're not really getting an award or a cash prize to just to stun on somebody. It's like, okay, again, what are we doing this for? Like, save your bread, do what you need to do. Then you're gonna come to find out, like, okay, I've saved this money. Shoot, let me make it work for me. Let me invest in this. Let me do this. Or you may just go get the wheels, and that's just what you want. All right, cool. Then that's what it is. But stop trying to impress people for the sake of impressing people where there's no end game. There's nothing to be gained from it unless you just want that instant self-gratification. But after that, now what? Now you chasing the next big thing on how I'm going to mess the city up or turn the city up on side of their head. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, and you know what I learned too is, like you talked about getting those rims on payments and things like that. You know what I learned is that when you can get something now and you make payments over time, sometimes you look at it like, well, hey, it's only $100 a month. It's not a big deal. And you get something just to get it to flex or to show off or whatever. But when you save your money and you save $2,000 and then you go to buy those same rims, sometimes you're like, man, these rims ain't worth $2,000. I'm not about to spend the money I just spent all this time saving.
It hit different
On something. Like, yeah, it hit way different.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm a big proponent on, you know, saving your money, you know, buying things when you're able to. Again, the rich people say, I'm not rich, so this doesn't come from me. But the rich people say if you can't buy it 10 times, you can't afford it.
That's true.
All right, let's go back to the list. We have one more topic we want to go over. That's an important one, and it's called gatekeeping.
Ooh,
first of all, let me ask you, what does gatekeeping mean to you?
Ooh, so gatekeeping is when I'm looking at it from a financial perspective, but it can also be just some type of economical development to where maybe a group of individuals or one person has all the resources and they hold all the resources in, and people who may need these resources, if you're not in their in crew, they're not going to give you the access to it. If they don't rock with you, may not get the access to it, and this money or this knowledge or whatever it should be available or readily available to individuals who's seeking it out. So like that's what that kind of looks like to me from a gatekeeping perspective. What about you?
I agree. You know, I think basically just withholding information with the intent that somebody don't prosper. You know, I think that's gatekeeping. Podcasting. Let's talk about that for a second, right? When I decided I want to do a podcast, like I had the idea for a long time, even before I saw my friend do one. And I was like, man, I want to do a podcast, but I never really put anything in motion. Then my friend did a podcast, you know, Anthony Johnson. He did a podcast called The Smartest Dumb People. And a great podcast, by the way, so go check it out. Look up episodes if you haven't. He had me as a guest one time. And so when I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to do a podcast, and this was probably a couple of years ago where I didn't even do it at the time, but I reached out to him. And I said, hey, brother, you know, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. First of all, how do you feel about that? Because since you did it first, I don't want to be stepping on your toes. And at the time, everybody wasn't doing podcasts, and definitely not in the city. You know, so I didn't want him to feel like, you know, oh, now that I did one, he's going to do one. Man, this brother was like, oh, man, I think that's a great idea. Oh, I think that's dope. I think that's this. You know, gave me some pointers, gave me some tips. There was no gatekeeping involved, you know, and that's why I said shout out to The Smartest Dumb People, because that brother literally was like, no, man, I think you should do it. Like, he encouraged me to do it. And I'm like, man, I appreciate that. Like, so to me, that's an example when somebody doesn't gatekeep. Or my buddy Brandon, my other buddy Brandon, I got
Bam.
two friends, Brandon, Bam, that's Bam. So Bam was like, hey, man, my homie got a podcast starting up, and her stuff looks dope. And I want to look it up real quick because I want to give her a shout out, but I don't want to mispronounce the name of her show. So let me take a look real quick. It is called Overmothered. It's not actually out yet. Like she shot some episodes, but she hasn't released it yet. But he sent me a picture of her set. I was like, man, that's dope. Like her stuff is like, it's killing mine. Like her stuff is dope. And I don't know her. I sent her a friend request. I inboxed her. I said, hey, listen, I'm new to and this was just last night. I said, hey, I'm new to the podcast game also. Me and my boy got one. It's called Dissecting Tyrone, the podcast. And I'm like, I don't know a lot yet, but I know a little. And if you need help with anything, let me know. I'm here. I wasn't trying to be a guest on her show. I wasn't trying to sleep with her. I wasn't trying to holler at her. I wasn't trying to get a date. I was literally like, oh man, that's dope. Somebody else is stepping out and doing what we doing. How can I help them? You know, when I'm on the fire department, I do the mentor program. So when I work with people who trying to get on the fire department, which is my job, I said I would never say where I work, but accident. But when people are trying to get into the field that I'm in, you know, I go out there and I'll work with them on test prep. I'll go to the gym and do workouts with them. You know, I'll do mock interviews. Like, we do these things because it's like I know how great the profession is, how great the field is. It's life changing. It changed my life, you know, and I don't want other people, minorities especially, but other people in general that are good people, to miss out on this opportunity. So I give them every bit of advantage that I have. I try to pass it on to them.
So I think one of the key things that I'm hearing you say, and I also practice it as well, is when you are in a position of some type of knowledge, some type of authority, if you're confident in yourself, you shouldn't have a problem. You should never be a gatekeeper, because if you got the sauce, you got the sauce, and it just is
Facts.
what it is. So I look at myself. I have clients or friends or people that reach out to me all the time, and I give them so much knowledge from the business perspective. And it's like, I just want to see us win. At the end of the day, like, people, Omaha, the world, there's so much money, so much bread in this world. It's enough for all of us.
Facts.
So the simple fact that you're trying to guard something very close or near and dear to you, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you don't know. It could be one of those things. You give somebody some game, and it's like, all right, unless you have a consulting business or anything like that, you give somebody some game and they're like, man, they're appreciative. Good karma is going to come back to you in some form or fashion. And if it doesn't, the karma was just you being able to give them that insight or that knowledge. And I think it's important, we as people collectively, just the human race, being more kind, like being open, being honest, because when you start hiding things, or you start trying to, I guess, take a conversation a certain way so this person doesn't know too much, it's like, okay, cool, because if this person is ambitious enough, they're going to go find it. And guess what? What happens if it one day down the road, they're in a position to look out for you and you snub them? But what if they were like, you know what? I'm going to look past it. I'm going to still throw you this bone over here. How would you feel? You would probably feel horrible.
Man, I'll keep it real with you, man. My entire life, my life is blessed. And I mean that with everything in me. I have a blessed life. And my entire life, in my opinion, has been based on karma.
Yep.
It's been based on the energy that I've put out my entire life to people. Like, I'm literally from the hood. I'm from Miller Park, which they call Killer Park. Grew up with the same statistics as most of my friends, where I knew my father, but my father didn't raise me. Single mother. My mother raised us on a disability check because she was disabled and couldn't work. So, you know, we never had Section 8, but we got food stamps before. And, you know, we didn't have a bunch of money or anything like that. You know, I got kicked out of high school. I got a GED, you know, but I'm sitting here as a firefighter with a good income, a good salary, a good life, well taken care of and blessed. But it's because over my life, I've always been that person that's jumped to help people. And guess what happened? In return, and I don't do things with the intent of what can I get out of it.
That's the key.
In return, people have always jumped to help me. Like, I consider myself a connector. Like, everybody knows, if you need something, call Jason, because I know somebody, right? So I got a friend that wants to buy a car. I'll call my buddy that sells cars. I'm like, hey, man, can you hook them up? And then my buddy that sells cars, and this really happened, was like, hey, man, what's your address? I said, for what? Oh, I'm going to send you $100. I give a $100 referral for that. And I said, man, I said, bro, my friend needed a car. My friend sells cars. I don't need to get paid for that. I said, so get him another $100 off on a car. You know, because, and I know some people are like, well, hey, he's going to give it anyway, just take it. I could do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine, right? But for me, that's just not how I move, because I felt like, you know what, now when I do go buy a car, and I done sent him 10 people for a car, you know, he's going to break his neck to give me the best deal possible, because he's like, man, this dude always looked out for me. Again, I don't do it with that intent, but that's the cycle of life. That's how it works. When you take care of people, people take care of you in return.
The love is always going to come back, and I think we just need more of that love. I'm identical everything that you're saying, and I think one of the things that we haven't let our listeners know, a couple of weeks ago, we Jason and I got an opportunity to speak to some young men, and the experience there was just so great. We spoke to these young high schoolers about fatherhood, about just relationships in general, and then they start asking us questions, very, very engaged. But I say that to say, because us being able to give back that time, and these aren't our kids, but we spoke to them as if they were our kids. And I just think maybe being able to impact somebody's life so then they can take it and just keep going and being able to go further and further and further. That's what life is about. That's what this is about. So I know for a fact we truly enjoyed speaking to that organization, and just in, like I said, just in general, just be kind, being able to give your time a couple of minutes of somebody who's appreciative of it. It goes a long, long way, and you never know. Like I said, down the road, it could be somebody who you may need down the road, or you may need a favor from.
Excuse me for looking at my phone. I was taking a moment to look it up because I wanted to give her a shout out too. But we did. It was with Marquisha Frost, and I was trying to look up the name of her company that put it on, and I couldn't find it real quick. But shout out to Marquisha Frost for having us. And again, that's what that's about. That's about coming back and saying, you know what, we had an experience in life, and we overcame some things in life, and we don't want to gatekeep the information on how we became successful. So we want to share it with these young men. And this is one less young man that might be crawling somebody's window out here doing dirt or doing something wrong. That might be one young man that who felt like, man, I didn't have no hope for anything, but he sees something in you or sees something in me that says, you know what, yeah, I can do it too. And they keep pushing. You know, gatekeeping to me is just basically overall being a hater.
Right.
Like, don't be no hater. Like, at the end of the day, if you can help somebody, help them. And you don't always have to get paid for it. You said if you have a consultant business, that's different. I agree. If you have a legit consultant business, you have a platform, a plan, eventually we would like to have a consultant business where we help people, you know, set up podcasts and start podcasts. But until we get to that level, that doesn't mean I'm going to, you know, look to see what I can get paid out of somebody for helping them right now. I don't do that.
But even then, like, I've always been a big believer. I may do this as a business. Every once in a while, I'm going to show some love. It may be one of them things where it's like, hey, I need this and this. I'm going to look at, I do it all the time. So I own a custom print shop, a commercial print shop.
Hey, shout it out.
Oh, the Sign Doctor, by the way. The Sign Doctor, baby. So basically, I actually have customers to where they're reoccurring customers. I look at them pretty much like family, like business family. So there may be a time to where, yeah, my price is my price, but there's some times where it's like, you know what? Nah, she's been grinding, he been grinding, doing this. Let me throw him a bone. Let me give him a little something extra off, because I've been blessed to get what I get, and I don't always need, like, who cares? At the end of the day, we talking 10% off, 15% off, 20% off. It is what it is. I may give something out for free, but it's all love because it's always coming back. They don't have to mess with me. They don't have to keep coming back. Man, I have customers that I've been dealing with for over 6 or 7 years that keep coming back. That's love. That's not a coincidence. So I'm very appreciative of it. And if I'm in a position to do something nice or show some love, I'm 1,000% always do it. But it's not even on some business stuff. It's just talking, being able to, somebody pick up the phone, they got access to me. I'm going to try to give them, hey, like, this is my situation. It may not be 100% of what you're going through, but I'm going to share my experiences. If you could take some nuggets from it, hey, by all means, take it. I'm here. I'm willing to talk. Let's keep it moving, and let's keep this good, positive energy flowing.
Yeah, and let me say this before we end, because we're getting on our time here. Because sometimes people will want to pass down information, and the people you're passing it to got this, oh, I know attitude. So if you do meet somebody that's not a gatekeeper and they're willing to share information and pass down information, sometimes even if you know something, just sit back and listen. I used to tell my son Nasir all the time. Nasir is quick to be like, I know. And I said, son, if you know everything, you ain't never going to learn anything. Like, sometimes you can have a conversation with somebody where you know 15 minutes of everything that they're already telling you. But those last 3 minutes may be things you don't know that can change your life. So sometimes just let people think that they're teaching you something, even if they're not. Like, just sit back and listen and learn.
Facts.
All right, y'all. That's been this episode. Stop the bullshit. It's
Stop the
episode
bullshit.
5. Episode 5. Stop the bullshit. And basically just, man, knock off anything that you know is not productive. It's not helping you grow as a person. It's not leading to a happy, healthy relationship. Just stop it, cut it out.
Please chime in when we post this content. Please chime in if there's some things that people need to stop the bullshit on. Let's go. Maybe we start a hashtag, stop the bullshit.
Stop
and we'll
the
just kind of go
bullshit.
from there. And but yeah, just get engaged. Like I said, we love you. We appreciate the support. And I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.